This week, the book I want to discuss is The Molecule of More, which can be loosely translated as The Greedy Molecule. This is an important and useful book. It talks about dopamine, a molecular compound made up of 4 types of atoms: carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, and nitrogen. Dopamine dictates our choices in most of our life's activities, whether to do this or that, to continue or to stop. This book will help you understand how dopamine forms and operates in the brain, so you can clearly recognize your own behavior and ultimately determine whether you are a slave to life's script or truly master of yourself. Now, let's delve into today's content. First, we will explore the 2 things that release dopamine and manipulate you throughout your life. First, let's start with a common misconception about dopamine. Many people believe that dopamine is a neurotransmitter that brings us pleasure. Even the scientists who initially researched it named it the happiness molecule. But in reality, the emotion dopamine brings you is not happiness. A classic experiment involved feeding monkeys. 2 doors were set up, and whenever one of the doors lit up, opening it revealed food inside. Each time the monkey saw food behind the lit door, it became incredibly happy and excited. At this point, people thought the monkey's joy came from getting the food. Scientists continued to observe. They then extended the time the light stayed on, and gradually, the light no longer needed to be on for food to appear before the monkey. They discovered that the monkey merely approached the food, and its brain no longer released dopamine. This result proves that the monkey wasn't happy because it ate, but rather it felt joy in the moment of anticipating the light turning on, when its mind thought about the food it was about to get. There's a common saying, waiting is happiness. But from a scientific perspective, you'll see that waiting only releases dopamine. This is an illusory pleasure because, ultimately, what you wait for might not come, and then it will pass. So, let's see how dopamine comes and goes to better understand how anticipation, the very thing that releases dopamine, controls you. Dopamine production is linked to the discovery of a specific brain region by P. Eric. P. Eric discovered that the brain divides the external world into 2 separately managed areas: proximal space and distal space. Proximal space is the range you can reach and control with your hands, while distal space is where you cannot immediately touch, perhaps 1 meter away or further. The brain processes objects in proximal and distal space differently. When processing objects in proximal space, brain chemicals called present molecules, such as serotonin, oxytocin, and endorphins, dominate. These present molecules provide immediate satisfaction in the current experience. In contrast, when processing objects in distal space, dopamine in the brain starts to activate. It makes us desire something and strive to achieve it. For example, if you want ice cream but don't have it at home, dopamine will be released, stimulating you to plan how to go out, how to get money to buy it, and so on. However, dopamine is only responsible for creating desire. Once you obtain it, dopamine no longer manages it. At that point, the present molecules take over. If the current experience is good, we feel happy and accomplished. If the current experience is bad, we suffer, even regretting our impulsiveness. Think about the items you impulsively bought during discount sales, or how many people feel amazing at the beginning of a relationship, but find marriage dull. That's because dopamine leaves as soon as you achieve what you desire. The saying, "marriage is the tomb of love," is actually a misguided lament and merely an excuse, because you have never allowed yourself to escape the urge of dopamine, always wanting and needing a fresh, better feeling without ever truly appreciating love in the present. True love means allowing yourself to know all the pros and cons of your partner, reflecting on whether you can accept their lowest points and grow together. Many people don't realize that after dopamine is released, even if you achieve results and feel a sense of accomplishment and joy, dopamine will still push you to pursue new things. For dopamine, possession is boring. Only the process of pursuit to obtain a desire is exciting. As this book aptly summarizes, the secret of attraction always lies in what you haven't acquired. Because you haven't acquired it, you constantly anticipate it, and anticipation generates surprise and excitement. This feeling can lead you to mistake it for true joy. Take a simple example, an experience many people have had. One day, you suddenly find 500,000 VND or even just 20,000 VND in a jacket you haven't worn in a long time. Suddenly, you feel incredibly happy. Yet, upon closer thought, that money was always yours. It wasn't any new income. So why were you so happy? It's because you just received a surprise, just like in the monkey experiment, where it was only happy anticipating the surprise after the light turned on. A good movie is good because it always has unexpected plot twists ahead. You continuously swipe your finger to scroll through videos, while platform algorithms quickly learn your preferences and interests, ensuring there will always be videos that suit your taste and provide continuous surprises. That's why it's so hard to stop. Or you crave cake, not because you're truly happy eating something you like, but because your brain remembers the surprising sensation from the first time you bit into that delicious, rich cake. So the next time, you anticipate that surprise again. Therefore, you keep craving it and can't stop, even when your weight has increased beyond what you desired. It is precisely these unexpected surprises that always stimulate the release of dopamine in the brain, bringing you feelings of excitement and joy. In summary, dopamine is not actually the happiness molecule, but rather the anticipation molecule. It only creates pleasure and prevents you from finding true joy. Driven by dopamine, you are merely pursuing, not enjoying. Scientists have discovered that dopamine is part of a reward cycle, but these rewards are not random, they are subtly orchestrated. Consider why so many people are addicted to gaming. Game developers always grasp the dopamine reward cycle to set up probabilities that make players as engrossed as possible. For example, at every stage, there will always be treasure chests. When opened, they contain rewards, but the probability of getting a treasure is always set at 25%, while 75% of the time, opening it yields nothing. This is because if every time you opened a chest, it contained a treasure 100% of the time, it would become boring and no longer surprising, thus eliminating the motivation to continue. It is precisely the 25% probability that makes players feel excited and more likely to play longer. Therefore, you might think you're playing a random game, but in reality, you're following someone else's script. They have calculated everything for you, when you'll get addicted, when dopamine will be released, when you'll desire to pursue greater challenges. Reflecting on life, it's quite similar. No matter who you are or what circumstances you were born into, life's script for everyone has the same reward probabilities. No one can achieve 100% of everything. You can only get about 25% of what you want, and the remaining 75% will be unsatisfied. At this point, dopamine, playing a crucial role in your life's reward cycle with the slogan "more and even more," will lead you to chase desires relentlessly, beyond mere anticipation. The feeling of uncertainty will also stimulate dopamine release. Psychologists conducted an experiment with pigeons. They set up a device for pigeons to peck to get food. A single peck would yield food. Then, they wanted to see how they could make the pigeons peck continuously, and they found that by making the food appear inconsistently. Sometimes it appeared, sometimes it didn't. This very uncertainty caused the pigeons to peck frantically at the device. You can clearly see this mechanism in gambling. Slot machines always operate on the principle of uncertainty, where players only win occasionally. If the logic were set up so that you never win or always win every time you bet, no one would play. Because then, it would simply become a chore. It's only when winning is uncertain that people become infatuated and addicted. But the truth is, no matter how skilled you are, you definitely cannot make money from this because you can hardly control your own dopamine. The principle of uncertainty is also applied by bad boys or those who enjoy manipulating others' psychology. These are people very skilled at creating uncertainty for their targets. Hot and cold, lifting you to the clouds, then bringing you crashing down, intense intimacy, then distance, disappearing for a few days, then reappearing very enthusiastically. Because of this, you gradually become addicted, but the truth is, it all relates to the dopamine in your brain. Because only when you feel uncertain will dopamine be released and stimulate you, making you crave stability and want to achieve even more to maintain that stability. But if you don't realize that it's precisely the feelings of anticipation and uncertainty that are controlling you, your entire life will be spent in illusory joy, becoming a slave to dopamine. So, the question here is, how do we control dopamine in our brains? There are two dopamine pathways. Dopamine is produced from an area called the VTA, nicknamed the dopamine factory. After release, dopamine travels to the nucleus accumbens, creating desire and motivation. This is the desire pathway. With this pathway, humans in primitive society sought food, mates, and escaped enemies. These were basic needs for survival. When dopamine is blocked, people lack creativity, motivation, and desire to achieve anything. Additionally, there is another dopamine pathway in the frontal lobe, called the control pathway. Its manifestations are calmness, careful thought, and the ability to restrain impulses. The main purpose of this pathway is to control the impulsiveness of dopamine-driven desires, harnessing instinctive energy for our benefit. In essence, when the two dopamine pathways can cooperate, they help us both have the motivation to achieve goals and experience satisfaction. But what if one no longer cooperates with the other? At this point, dopamine and the present molecules become imbalanced. If dopamine focuses too highly on the future, it will make a person work tirelessly, relentlessly pursuing goals and unable to feel the joy of the present. It's especially important to note that dopamine production is not controlled by conscience, meaning many people may go to any lengths, even acting against their own will, to satisfy dopamine and fulfill desires. This leads to another concept called the dopamine personality. This type of person is infatuated with future value and willing to sacrifice the joy they could experience in the present. Perhaps everyone in life has encountered people with a dopamine personality. What are their characteristics? They are constantly pursuing new goals but fail to see what they already have. Even if they are very skilled and doing very well in the present, they believe it's not enough. They must try harder, achieve more of what they desire. But if you ask them if they feel happy, they aren't sure. Conversely, if present molecules focus on current experience, increase too much, the desire pathway of dopamine will be suppressed. This means we become lazy, preferring immediate gratification without thinking further. A typical symptom is addiction, from severe to mild, from drug and alcohol addiction to gaming, oversleeping, shopping, or endlessly scrolling on our phones. Rationally, no one wants to be addicted like this, but the problem is that the dopamine desire pathway in their brain has been hijacked. The addiction has taken control. For example, an alcoholic's hands only stop shaking, and they feel happy when holding a glass of alcohol. But once they put the glass down, they can't do anything. From this, we see that an ancient philosophy of life always holds true. Too much of anything is not good. Only balance brings you the best experience of life. If you want true happiness and to achieve accomplishments, what you need to seek is harmony. Don't let dopamine or present molecules take turns dominating your life. Therefore, don't overemphasize the future, nor overindulge and be complacent with the present. The best balance is to overcome dopamine's relentless temptation by letting go of obsessions, fear of loss, fear of uncertainty, the need for stability to feel secure, and stopping comparisons or meeting others' expectations. Stop focusing and thinking, I don't have this yet. I need to achieve that. I must have more. Bringing your mind back to a state of equilibrium is how to begin living in harmony with dopamine, freeing yourself from the fate of being a slave to life's script. This is the core philosophy of change. Next, let's specifically explore some methods suggested by the author for living in harmony with dopamine. The first method is to strive for mastery in something, meaning become an expert in a particular field. As you've seen, dopamine's mechanism is to make you want more. But instead of setting goals for material possessions, status, fame, or achievements, let dopamine help you immerse yourself in work, helping you master something. As I've mentioned in many previous books, to truly become excellent and a master, you must first love your work. Meaningful work for you is something others find difficult, but you don't falter, and it's something you can easily achieve a flow state in and also work where you can help and contribute to others. After giving your best, dopamine will recede, allowing the present molecules to take a primary role in your happiness cycle. You will enjoy the present moment immensely, and this moment will last for a long time. The afterglow effect will also last. This will motivate you to engage in the next goal, because dopamine wants to experience that feeling of happiness again when you put in your full effort. From there, your life enters a healthy cycle. So, the best joy is to immerse yourself in work you can do well. The next method is to connect with nature and rest properly. Our current fast-paced, hurried life is devouring more and more of our time and energy. Don't let dopamine continuously release excitement. Don't just be a person who only knows how to work. Relax appropriately. Occasionally take a break, connect with nature to allow yourself to unwind. This feeling of relaxation can bring you back to a state of balance. Next, method number 3. Focus on the present moment, maintain concentration, don't multitask. Researchers conducted an experiment to measure human happiness levels and found that happiness levels decreased when people lost focus, regardless of what they were doing. A person who can focus on the present can achieve a flow state. In this state, present molecules and dopamine work harmoniously together without inhibiting each other. Some time management books have suggested multitasking, such as washing dishes and cleaning the house while listening to a podcast. This advice may seem reasonable, but the actual experience might not be so. When you're washing dishes and cleaning, and let's say the content of the video you're listening to is unrelated, you might unconsciously stop at an important part, causing the housework you could finish in 5 minutes to take 10 minutes due to external interference. You might need to go back and listen to a certain part. This will also prolong your listening time. When a person's attention needs to switch between two different tasks, each such switch not only consumes mental energy, but also requires time to refocus. In fact, the busyness of multitasking is also a cause of dopamine losing control. Because present molecules cannot satisfy you, they cannot give you a feeling of joy in the present, so you can only release more greedy dopamine. And the final method: engage in creative activities. Creative activities may sound difficult, but here, creativity isn't about grand activities that change society or the world, but rather ordinary creative activities anyone can do, such as woodworking, knitting, painting, decorating, or composing, etc. The principle is that creative activities can allow present molecules to provide a sense of satisfaction and contentment alongside dopamine production. This is because they don't bring money or fame, but you need to remember that they can make you happy. Today's content allows us to reflect on our lives. If we completely surrender ourselves to the burning desires within us, no one can save us. But if you can learn to balance, having dopamine to pursue some righteous things while also activating your present molecules to enjoy what you already have, only then will you have the best life experience. And remember, when your life is balanced, the earth is balanced. Look at what humanity's greedy dopamine has done. The carbon layer in the Antarctic sky has a huge hole. Humans relentlessly produce cars, cement, steel. Excessive carbon emissions have been and are destroying the Earth. The nuclear arms race, these insane ideas, could lead to humanity's destruction. Artificial intelligence is becoming increasingly intelligent. Will it replace humanity? Behind all these things is the driving force of dopamine, and the pursuit of pleasure will also destroy us. Many people now think about loving, but not wanting to marry and have children. Humanity's birth rate is constantly decreasing. There's also something we hadn't anticipated. Virtual reality technology could also drive humanity's decline. If we rely too much on dopamine to constantly seek immediate pleasure, people will gradually learn to only experience without working. Experiencing from the virtual world will give you excitement and a sense of power, but you won't want to strive or exert effort anymore. Finally, the author advises that to unleash the full potential of the brain, there needs to be a combination of all sensory experiences with cognitive development. When it operates at its peak state, it not only creates joy and satisfaction, or wealth and knowledge, but also a rich life experience that helps you reach a higher intelligence. This can lead us to a balanced life. One purpose of this book is the hope that everyone can find their path to that balanced life, escaping the slavery of greedy dopamine, living meaningfully, and mastering themselves.